All right, today we're going to be looking at our Nova D. It's our more of a kind of industrial version of the deadbolt, more robust. Can take a pretty good beating and not show any signs of it. Today we've got our 48 SE U26. All it means is it's a Nova deadbolt. It's electronic override instead of key override, and it's got a U26 finish on it, which is a satin chrome with just an ultra coating on top of it. So let's look and see what's in the box here today. It's a lot smaller box here. So we've got our 3 AA batteries. We have our lock body and a gasket. The gasket you need if you're putting this on an exterior door. We're not using the exterior portion today because we're just putting on a demo mount, so I'm gonna set that to the side. Comes with a little instruction sheet, door template. We've got our screw pack and deadbolt strike plate and everything. It's even got the more armature type strike plate with the long screws to get down and bite into the 2x4s in the frame. We have our actual deadbolt, and we have the inside housing of this. Now you'll notice that different from the Sapphire locks, our wire only has a single conductor in it. That's because we're actually carrying the negative portion of the power through the screws. So we've got to make sure we get those screws on and they're snug and everything's set up right there so you don't have any power issues. So I'm going to set the lock over here to the side for just a moment. Set these pieces over. Go ahead and open up my packages. I've got all my batteries here I'm pulling out. Get this deadbolt out of the package. Now, be careful, this thing is lubricated from the factory, so it can be a little bit greasy on you. I'm just gonna go ahead and take it and put it into my demo mount. I wanna point out there's a little slot right here on the bottom side of this. This must go on the bottom when you put it through the door. Do not put it in with that at the top. It's gotta go in the bottom. So I'm just gonna go ahead and set it in my demo mount to get it out of the way for a moment. So I'll try it over here in the demo mount. Let's see what else we've got in here. We've got our dust box, our strike plates. I don't need those right now because I'm just putting this on a demo mount. Got a few different screws here. So first I just wanna pull out my wood screws so I can go ahead and put this latch into the door. I've got an advantage over you. I can actually lay my door down flat. Can't do that in the field. So I'm just gonna run these screws in real quick. And just as a point of pride, I like to make sure that these screws are facing the same way. I like them pointing up and down. Just makes the job look a little nicer to me. So set that over for a minute. We've got our front housing here. And we've got our tailpiece, very similar to what we have with the Sapphire locks. And we've got to set the handing of this lock. Now up here at the top is an LH, at the bottom is an RH. There's an outside ring here that has a notch in it. We want that to point to whatever direction we're doing the handing. I'm gonna make this a right-handed door, and I've already got the notch pointing to the right hand. So now I've got to snap this tailpiece in. I'm just gonna snap it in place there, make sure it's grabbed. I'm gonna take my door. This is a right-hand door sitting this way. I'm gonna make sure that this wire goes underneath the deadbolt while I put it through, underneath that latch. If it goes on top, it will get pinched. It's gotta go through the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and slide that housing on. I'm gonna lay my door back down. Nice advantage. All right, my back cover plate, I've gotta take this screw out just to open it up. It's just a Phillips head screw at the top. I'm gonna loosen that and set that screw to the side. I'm gonna pull that cover off. Now we see the back housing, our battery box connection and all. This wire is gonna go through this slot here at the bottom edge. It's a little oval slot. So everything lines up on the door. Now my bigger screw and washer, make sure you're using your lock washer, goes through this bottom hole. It's kind of obvious because it's the bigger screw and the bigger hole. So I'm gonna thread that in a little bit, just kind of hold things together. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab my other screws here. I've got these 2 screws going at the top. I gotta make sure I put my lock washers on them also. Remember, we're carrying negative power through these screws. So I want to make sure that I've got everything lined up and on here so it doesn't come loose on me or anything. So I'm gonna run these screws in. Not tightening anything down yet, just so I have room for adjustment. And then I've got my final 2 screws here. Put my washers on. I'm gonna slide these through. So this one does have 5 screws going through to connect everything. Get all these to where they're just getting a little tension on them. You want to make sure that your lock is true to the edge of the door. Level doesn't really matter here. It's kind of hard to level when it's sitting at an angle too. So want to just make sure it's true to the edge of the door. If I'm doing a lot of these, I might make a little template that is even distance from the edge of the door to the top and bottom of the lock, just to help line these up. And we'll do the same thing on the inside. But once I get all that in, I'm just going to take and tighten these screws down all the way. That'll pull everything nice and tight for me. I'm starting with the middle screws just to kind of pull evenly. I'm going to do that big screw at the bottom. Make sure it's nice and snug. And again, make sure you got your lock washers on here when you do this. So I've got my 5 screws tightened down. I'm going to take and put my batteries in the housing. So I'll give you a good look at it here. Batteries go in. And then this connector is a keyed connector. It only fits one way. Plug it in. I heard the motor whir, so I know everything's good there. I'm going to take and just kind of tuck this wire over here out of the way in this white clip. That way it doesn't get caught by the deadbolt or anything like that, this tailpiece or anything. And now I've got to put this back housing on. I want to, just to make it easier, I want to take and extend my deadbolt. Might take a pair of pliers or something just to make it easier to turn by hand. I want to extend that deadbolt so the shaft is up and down. Just makes it a little easier to line up. Take and put this on. And that top screw that I pulled out earlier, I want to put back in there wherever I knocked that screw over to. I think it's this screw rolled over into all the others on me. So I'm going to take and just tighten that screw down. Everything lined up well there. I can turn my inside thumb turn to retract and extend the deadbolt. I'm going to take my construction key, try it. It works just fine. So we've got all that. There is a cap. Let's see if I had it in the box here or if I just misplaced it while I was doing everything. I think I actually just misplaced it while I was going through this earlier. But there's actually a cap that goes on right here, just snaps in place right here to cover up the electronic override. If the batteries were to go dead in this lock to get in, you just take the power supply and plug it in here. It'll power up the lock so you can read a card and come in. And there's just a little cap that goes over that to cover it up. And I apologize, I misplaced mine when I had this open earlier. Happens sometimes. So this is our Nova D, opening the box, putting it on the door. Thank you very much.